Hi everyone, it's Natalie here. Welcome to my channel. So this will be a, general reading for the week starting the 5th of April through the 11th of April. So the second week, or the first, I guess, official long week of April. I will have filmed another video, which I'm hoping to have put up before this one, about what I've been up to and sort of what's been happening here. I just wasn't up for, I was not in a place to really try and do a reading last week. So things thankfully have shifted significantly this week through continued just practice and meditation and spiritual guidance. So I do feel okay actually about offering a reading this week and moving forward and seeing where things take us. I will caveat the week's reading by saying I'm very intentionally going to ask for guidance about how we can best get through the coming week. Like, what are the things we need to focus on in order to be at our best for the coming week. So I will be focusing the reading that way. This week, I'm going to work with a deck that was very, very lovingly gifted to me by none other than my friend and yours, Diane Jarecki of Indigo Moon Woman. And this is the Gaian Tarot en Français. And so it has the most wonderful, loving, look at that. Beautiful feeling to it. So, and it's got this lovely sagey green color. So very springy and appropriate, I feel like, for April. So we'll be reading with that deck. We'll also be reading with the Spirit Doodle cards and manifesting your greatness. So, yay! All right, that said, let's go ahead and switch the camera around and we will get started here. Okay. So every time I think I'm gonna, like, by the way, clear all of these stones and just keep a select number out, either I end up doing another reading for someone remotely or I have to pull some out, and then I'm like, oh, I really missed that stone, and so it stays out. Or when I came back from Oklahoma, I came back with, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So yeah, some friends came home with me. So yeah, that's a thing that happens a lot. Okay, so that said, I'm going to need to find our Fool here in a minute. And I think we'll do like a before we actually start reading the cards. And then we'll do a like as we're leaving and finishing the reading with this deck. All right. So we're going to find the Fool here. Because I did not find it's a female in this deck in advance. There she is. So here's our Fool for this week, for this reading. Really beautiful woman who's out on her journey with her fox companion there. We'll go ahead and elect her as our significator for this reading and shuffle her back in. Wow. Okay, so I remember our last one, we came up in the swords pile as well. That's very interesting. Not surprising, given that I'm intentionally focusing, as I did last time, on reading specifically for how we can best serve the community, but also like how do we best keep ourselves going and spiritually pulled together over the coming week. So that really definitely corresponds with the swords pile. It's about our mental state. It's about the way we manifest ourselves in the world. Certainly how we serve, potentially serve the community, or be the sort of presence in the community that's or in our households even, that's needed right now. Sometimes the swords also relate to conflict, which is definitely, a lot of people are facing serious conflict right now because of the, being kind of trapped in their homes. So we'll include that as a potential dynamic here. Yeah. And regardless, whatever comes up this week, because we're in the swords pile, and the swords rule our mental state, most of our problems will be solved by getting some space and thinking about it. We'll be able to come up with good solutions by using the mind, using the rational mind. Doesn't mean that the heart is absent. It just means that this is a time where keeping the rational mind available is going to be important. It's going to be very, very important to us. Woo. Okay, so I've got our Fool pulled out here so that we can begin counting. We're going to be counting clockwise this time because she's facing clockwise or to the right. So we'll start with a Fool and count 3. So 1, 2, 3. Our first card is the 7 of Fire. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Next is the Knight of Air. So that's 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, wow. So the next is, I think that's the King. I think the Kings are guardians in this one, of fire. So that becomes, just gotta keep her out. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 again. 4 of water. One, two, three, 4. Okay, so 4 cards, and interestingly, they were all spaced 4 apart. I'm going to lay them out and come back with a spirit doodle card. Okay, so I'm back, and I have pulled out 2 of the spirit doodle cards from that deck. And this is all very, very interesting this week, actually. So we have Keep It Simple and Magnet. And both of these are air cards. They're element, or no, sorry, they're both earth cards. They're both earth cards. So I feel like, with all of the air that we're being offered in this week's reading, air and fire and so forth, we do have a little bit of water. We don't have any earth, so these 2 just offered us our earth. Which is so interesting. But we have Keep It Simple and Magnet. So I'm going to read us just a little bit from each of these cards, and then we'll look at how they're going to relate to this trajectory, for the week. So starting with keep it simple, it's pretty much in the guidebook about what it would sound like. I'm going to hold up the card for us. So Elrond says, try to imagine yourself as a carpenter with an untouched piece of wood. Simplicity is not just admiring the wood without working on it. That isn't simplicity, that's avoidance. True simplicity is the ability to efficiently make a beautiful piece of furniture with as little frustration and aggravation as possible. That takes time and experience. This doodle shows our mind's ability to use confusion to trap simplicity. But our minds also have the ability to set simplicity free. When this card comes up, you are likely making things harder than they need to be. Remember, according to Occam's razor, the simplest explanation tends to be the right one. Making a situation more complicated than necessary won't make it better, and oversimplifying it won't make it true. So, yeah, that's such an interesting balance. It's an earth designation, but I can totally see how this is about our mind. And about our thinking, actually, and the way that we then put that into action. So, yeah, that feels very, very clear, and I love the way that the elements fit, both with the pile that they came from this week, as well as the fact that we've got an earthing grounding card. So, as we think about what it is, as we eliminate this confusion to set the simplicity of things free and make it more available, we can take that into action. We can put that into action in our day-to-day lives to make it easier on ourselves. And then we have magnet. Magnet, of course, is a little bit more complex than keep it simple. But I do feel that it's actually pointing, the fact that these two cards came together is actually pointing to the fact that looking at what we attract is actually a lot simpler than it would appear. Okay, so I've selected a chunk because, of course, there's a lot here in the guidebook, but I selected a particular chunk to read to us here. So Elrond says, this card reminds me that I alone am in charge of the experience magnet and of what I attract into my life. Repetitions of the same negative experience are warnings that the core issue has not been healed. Here, a word of caution is necessary. Do not avoid the looping negative experiences at any cost. We need these loops in order to experience the emotion, locate its origins, heal it, and choose a more positive path. If we move through these experiences too quickly, we will continue to attract the repeating loop simply because we have not yet learned the lessons we needed to learn. So when this card comes up, you're asked to investigate the pattern you're currently in. Is it a repeat of the past? If yes, use therapy. Good luck with that, everybody. We may not be able to find a therapist right now. Awareness, visualization, and affirmations to consciously change the situation. Don't expect to break the pattern overnight. It will probably take a few tries until it's transformed. I love that. So, that's something we're all, I think, sitting with right now. And I feel like it really directly relates to these two cards. So I'm seeing some overlap here and here with what we're getting from the two tarot cards, or four actually. But I will elaborate a little bit more on that in a moment. Yeah. I mean, looking at the pattern we have here, it seems to me, so we're starting on a 7 and with fire, and we're ending on a 4 and water. And these are such beautiful cards. This is the same deck creator that made the Herbal Tarot? That's published by US Games. I was just reminded of that because I know that Diane had pulled out this one and edged hers similarly. And I'm now thinking I might need that deck. I don't know. But, looking at these, they're just so beautiful. Looking at these two, we're starting with a lot of action, a lot of doing. And this one is a lot more obviously reflective, quiet, still, purposeful. We're starting with a 7 and getting to a 4. Ironically, moving also here in the middle, there's a dog hair right in the middle of my card. Not that that's a real problem, just that I'd rather it not be in the middle of that card. Okay. Yeah, we're going from a knight to a queen. So I said king earlier. I was thrown off because it was a male in the card, but it's with the cat. I was like, hang on, that might actually be the queen in this deck. So guardians in this deck obviously are queens. So yeah, this is fascinating. So starting the week, this 7 of fire is fascinating because we look at this, something's being tempered, right? Something is being beaten down, beaten into submission, and yet it's the tempering process of what we're going through that it's probably going to bring about a tremendous amount of transformation for all of us. Interesting, that has metal in it. The magnet refers to metal on some level, but grounds the fire. The tempering process is actually a very simple process, even though it is one that kind of is lengthy. It takes a lot of time and physical effort and energy to do, but the process itself is very simple. The 7 of fire is often too about defending something. When we look at metallurgy like this, where the metal is being beaten flat, there's a possibility of creating something to use as a defensive mechanism. Certainly the raising of a fist, to take action and beat something down or away. There's defensiveness is built into this card on some level as intention, even though the actual act of defending something is not being carried out. I think that makes a lot of sense for most of us. Gotta have a sip of tea here. As we're here, looking at how we can defend ourselves from illness, keep our families safe and protected, we're actively strategizing, how do I do that? When actually what we may need to be focusing on as well as that, is how can I make my life less stressful, a little bit easier, and recognize that this is on some level, because we're dealing with a 7 of fire. This is about the journey we get through with the Chariot, where choices are concerned, and with temperance, right? The 7s, 2 7s in a row, or the two. I'm struggling with my words here. You know what I'm saying? Most of you that read tarot, you got 1 through 7. 2 through 14, 15 through 21. So we've got septenaries, right? 7th card in each septenary. And then we've got the 7 of fire. So there is a relationship there. And in order to, look at that third aspect here of this 7 energy is a 21, which is the world, right? To get to that place, we've got to go through a lot of temperance. We're being tempered. We're being hammered and shaped and changed. And so we're experiencing a sense of feeling like we're being beaten down, set a light on fire. So, certainly where fever is concerned with this coronavirus, there's, that is a form of being tempered on some level through the body, and through the consciousness, definitely through consciousness and the spirit and soul. It is testing our mettle, being plunged into water and cooled down in order to be pulled back out and have that process continue is just part of it. So remember at the beginning of the video when it was either in this one or it was in the one I just filmed. I don't remember. At some point today, I spoke about, feeling like there's a lot of ups and downs that come along with what we're experiencing right now. And I feel like that's part of it. It's part of being tempered. This process of what we're going through right now is going to, it's alchemical, and it will change us, whether we get sick or not. Um, Something in the experience of this is going to change us. Feeling defensive and afraid is going to be part of it. And then finding a way to accept that is also part of it. And I really feel, although I could say I think, because hey, we're in a thinking pile this week, that keeping it simple and finding ways to create simplicity in our lives day to day is going to make all of this a lot more endurable. It's going to make it easier to get through. So, as we're working through all the things that come up for us, whether it's about, this alchemical process, whether it's about feeling the need to defend something or be more prepared or create whatever it is that will keep us safe, I see this explorer of air or knight of air. I love this card so much because this guy is actually keeping it very simple. He's climbing into the branches of the trees to get a higher perspective. And seeing the birds, being in a space that's less crowded, less hot, less heated, less challenging. Yet there's plenty of challenge, right? Because anytime we go into the mind or into the thoughts, there's going to be some challenge. He's got to keep his balance, keep a mental balance, but being willing to do that, being willing to come back to simplicity is actually, I feel like, something that's going to help us to climb higher this week. And as we do that, it will give us fresh ideas, fresh insight. I love this clear sky right around his head with these birds kind of coming towards him. Reminds me of like the fresh thought, fresh ideas, new ways of thinking, new perspectives on our situation that make it easier to endure. And I feel like, again, that keeping it simple by looking at ways to keep things very simple, clear, easy, and to declutter or decomplicate them is going to make it a lot easier for us. And I don't know about anybody else, but like I had to offer myself a mental health break from the news this weekend, and it's been one of the best things I could have done. I don't think there's going to be any breaking news about the, Donald Trump or the coronavirus that's going to be so groundbreaking that it can't wait until Monday, right? So taking 2 days, and it's taken a lot of discipline to stay off of the YouTube internet based news, onslaught, and just leave it be and not click on those in favor of like animal videos and things that just take me completely away from all of this. But any way in which we can kind of clear or declutter, decomplicate the mind is going to help us in terms of that simplicity, because it will help us access where that simplicity is, right? There's even color overlap there somewhat, which is fascinating. And that as we do that, so as we're decluttering and letting go of being quite so, I feel like defensive. Yeah, I feel like, there's a mindset that comes along with this fear, right? This fear-based thinking that's unhelpful. It's very unhelpful. We need to take that air instead and guard the fire. Look at that. Guardian of fire. I love this. This is a very simple, uncluttered, uncomplicated space. And it takes the fire, it takes whatever it is that's coming up right now and holds space for that with safety, right? Safety and ease. It may be that something very creative arises from this fire, but rather than putting energy towards I love that there's the element of fire is so apparent in both. Rather than putting the energy physically towards defending something, is there a way in which we could take that fiery energy that we've all got at the moment, and use it to melt the heart, to warm the space inside of us, to warm the space immediately surrounding us with our friends, our family, anyone that we share physical space with right now. Holding space, and it's also holding space for that transformation to come about, right? And of course, we need the air. We need that gentle breeze, of the air, and the explorer of air on that, fire, so that we know both how to keep it simple and we can gain insight, right? So where we're keeping the mind clear and open, and where we're holding space, for alchemical processes to take place. I think it's going to show us this week a lot about what kind of a loop we're stuck in. This kind of looks like a magnet that's pulled in a lot of stuff, right? But it's, I love the way he talks about, what it is that we're attracting. In fact, I feel like I want to pull that, wording up again, because there was something in here that was really juicy. Right. He says, let's see, he says, don't avoid the looping negative experience at any cost. We need these loops in order to experience the emotion, locate its origins, heal it, and choose a more positive path. If we move through these experiences too quickly, we will continue to attract the repeating loop simply because we've not yet learned the lessons we needed to learn. So as I look at this, this alchemical process happening here, over the course of the week to come, which is largely going to be in our own mind space, right? It's largely going to be in our head. It won't, it's also the way we manifest in the world, but a lot of it's in the head. I'm seeing the way that these two really kind of interrelate as well. Because if we look at this guardian of fire, the one element we haven't seen yet is water, because these two are earth. These are telling us what kind of action to take. This four of water is telling us, or four of cups is telling us, like, yeah, you're going to spend a lot of time gazing into the depths this week. What is it that's brought up the things that are circling around in the mind right now? We've got to take that time. We've got a lot of gazing into the fire, gazing into the water. Look at what he's doing, gazing into the air. They're all looking very deeply into something. And these are the fours, right? These all counted as 4 in the card counting, whereas this one counts as a 7, obviously, in the card counting. And she's the one really taking physical action. And I feel like we're being asked to recognize that, yes, this process of alchemical transformation is taking place, but there's not a lot we can do around that other than to be, and to be with it. And being with it means watching our thoughts change, recognizing, the necessity of keeping a clear headspace, so that new thoughts can come in, new ideas can come in. And a clear headspace is how we're going to keep it simple and decomplicate things, both for ourselves and for others and for our own sanity, right? Then we have our guardian of fire, who can look at, the causes and sources of the heat and the energy, and oversee and hold space for that alchemical process to take place. And then, of course, we have the 4 of Cups, which is still, and in this card, is still contemplative, deep, and willing to look into things to see what comes next. For some of us, that may include continued scrying and divination It may just be holding space for emotions to come up from the depths, right? Because as we gaze into the fire and allow some of this alchemical stuff to come up, we're going to have emotions that come up with it. And finding, all of the gazing and holding space may bring something up for us as well. It will begin to show us what we're attracting, and then how to move forward from that, right? How to get out of that loop. But, even as it's emotional, this is an emotional card. I don't necessarily see it being like, a feeling kind of situation so much as just like we may not spend a lot of time sitting, sobbing, crying, and having cathartic clearing experiences emotionally so much as it seems, we're gazing and looking. It's mental. These are all very mental, in one form or another. So yeah, let's go ahead and pull a Manifesting Your Greatness card, which I will take over here to the side. Okay, so we got 3 cards from this beautiful deck, and they came out in this order. So we have try something new without expectations. So that's our first one, right? That would be keep it simple. Relates beautifully to this idea, the explorer of air. And it's a blue card. Look at that. Sorry about the car alarm there in the background. I don't know if that's audible or not. But yeah, we've got new ideas, simplicity, freshness, a fresh mind space. Yeah. That all comes together very nicely there. You will get through this, right? You will get through this. We're going to get through this. And I love the way that we've got this kind of fiery colors mixed with the blue like we have here with the Guardian. This may be the key to calming down that 7 of fire, that defensiveness. You will get through this. And we will, guys. We really will. We're going to get through this. The world is going to be a very different place. We will be very different within it, but we will get through this. And remember, there's no awakening without difficulty. There is no lotus without mud and muck and gross things and loss and death. These are that's the stuff that creates literally all of the shit that falls to the bottom of the pond and provides the opportunity for that lotus to grow up and out of the depths, and to open into the world. So whatever we're experiencing right now, I think sometimes it's very helpful, or has been very helpful to me, to remember this serves my awakening. This will serve my awakening. May I awaken further. May my heart open more deeply, right? And that's where we're getting to with this. And then finally, we have use your words. Yeah, again, we're in the swords. Communicate, in the swords pile this week. Communication is vital. What are your needs? What do you need to ask for? What do you need to communicate to someone else? As we go through, especially to this point, right? Once we get to the end of the week or end to the cycle of thinking where there's a lot of contemplation, possible dissatisfaction, things that come up from the depths. How can we articulate that in such a way that that we can really make this alchemical? We can really shift away from the loop, right, that we get caught in. We can, where did he go? Here it is. We can decomplicate things and keep them simple. And we can take this alchemical process that's been started and really complete it. And sometimes that requires us to communicate. I feel like that's providing us a little missing, like a little missing key or a missing piece in the reading this week, actually, is that a lot of times we do all of this work And then there's something else that's needed. And often it is that we have to communicate with those that we love. We need to communicate with those we love and tell them how we feel, and tell them what's hurting us or what we need. Or we just need to say simply, like, I'm feeling a lot of change. A lot of things are changing for me or in me. And I don't have words for that yet. That's another way of using your words. Yeah. So a very dynamic reading this week. Kind of the storm in a teacup in the form of the brain and the skull this week. A lot going on inside our minds and mentally. But yeah, I think it's helpful to remember that whatever it is that we experience, it is here to serve our greater awakening, to make our heart more awake, to make us more loving, ultimately. Okay, folks, sending you tons and tons of love and strength for the coming week. And I will be back again next week. Yeah, I'm going to say that I will commit to that, and I will be back next week. All right, see you soon. Bye.